my God, what is all this? So this is DrMystique, and today's topic is about anger. And I just wanted to be able to share with people that in light of how we're all experiencing our emotions, um, I want you to recognize that all of them are normal. And we have anger, and we have joy, and we have worry and grief. But when it comes to anger, we think of it as a very negative emotion. And frankly, it's no more or less negative than any of the others. We're just afraid of it. So my thoughts were to show you more like the Chinese principle, where we are supposed to experience all emotions: anger, worry, fear, anxiety, grief, all of those emotions, but we're supposed to go into them and out of them. Our feelings are what help us create our experiences, our boundaries, our our world, really, on what we want and what we don't want in it. So when we have an emotion that we avoid, we end up stopping the flow in a lot of ways. And so an example of why we wouldn't want anger is we would want to suppress it because we're afraid, either because we've seen it or we've been told such, that it can be very rage and unpleasant and scary, and it can harm and it can hurt. So we're either afraid of experiencing it, so we have non-confrontation, or we are afraid of showing it. Now, sometimes it's not appropriate to show anger, such as your job, work environment, and with family members, even, especially recently being in the holidays. But if we don't have a way of expressing it, it gets bottled up. And it's kind of like the cider I just bought the other day, which is very delicious live cider, fermenting, fermenting, fermenting. And what happened is it got bottled, it got sealed, and it had no way to let off the gas. It was still fermenting. It was still there. It didn't stop brewing. So what happened is that it started to make the bottle bulge, and it was still perfectly good cider, but it needed to outgas. So before the bottle explodes, you have to let it out. So sometimes we let it out in small ways, steam, that would come out as irritability, that would come out as I'm angry at small things. And so when you see yourself doing something like that, you have to ask yourself, am I really angry or irritable at this thing, this small thing? Or is this me venting something bigger that's somewhere else that I'm really upset about or angry about? And so it is okay to vent, but to another person experiencing that irritability, it might feel really unreasonable and trigger their anger because they feel like it's unjustified. And technically they're right, because it's not really what that small thing was that was bothering you. It was something bigger that you were not expressing. So we have to find an outlet for anger so we can move through it. We can feel it, and then we can move through it. Usually behind anger is fear, sometimes pain. And our fears are usually related to one of three things. And it's usually related to being separate from something or someone. It's a relation to feeling unloved in some way or rejected in some way. Basically, it is the ego, the I, the part of you that says, I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting my way. And that comes in a way from childhood when we're developing self separate from other, but it's not something we want to suppress. We want our ego to be present because that allows us to be individuals. We just can't let it rule the entire show, like a toddler that never matures, let's put it that way. So you could have a full grown adult that's still in toddler mode, that wants how they want it without any consideration of the consequences. And they can have tantrums, they can have anger, only it's much more dangerous as an adult and can be quite aggressive and harmful in some ways to people. So what we want is, how do we release that anger in a healthy way? And first, you have to recognize that you're feeling angry. Some people don't even know that much. Once you've realized that you feel anger and where it is in your body is important, then you also can analyze it. So you can step back from it and you can say, oh, this is the emotion anger, and I feel this way because, and then maybe you can define what triggered it. Maybe you can't. Maybe you're not aware yet. If you can't define where it comes from, then what you might do is look at it and say, okay, so I had anger. Where did I first feel it this way? Where did I first feel this feeling? It might be someplace in childhood. It could be someplace in a recent event. It could be something you observed. It could be like two other people, perhaps parents, perhaps someone you really admired, or somebody even that you feared, and how they expressed it. When was the first time you felt this, and why? And did you feel fear behind it? And if so, why? And so if you can analyze that, and that might take journaling, that might take recording, thinking aloud, talking to a friend, those are all ways you can do that. It could be all a process that's up in your head in milliseconds. Once you've come up with that, then you can find ways to express it that are not harmful either to yourself or to another. So for an example, if you are the kind of person that when you're angry, you just want to throw things or destroy something, well, go ahead and do so. Pick up a coffee cup or some pottery or something, throw it at the ground, not a person, and let it shatter. And then you pick up the pieces and you create something with it. So a lot of the old authors, artists used to take those emotions, those really intense emotions. I shouldn't say used to, they still do. Take those strong emotions and they find an outlet for it that is creative. If you can find a creative way of expressing it, then you have a way of still having the anger, not suppressing and bottling it up so you'll explode, because then it's more intense. Then it's more dangerous and harmful than if you had let it out in little bits, little bits, little bits. And it's also not inappropriate little bits where another person experiences the little irritable and they're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me? Or that thing, or that child, or that animal, because it's more appropriately directed. And creativity can heal that experience of anger because it's about, I'm not getting my own way. But if you find a way that satisfies you, because if you've ever done a creative thing, you'll find that you find quite a lot of joy and peace and calm, and it helps you get your perspective back. It's very zen for a lot of people. It could be sewing, that's one for me. It could be gardening, it could be working on a car, it could be carving wood, it could be all kinds of things. It could be making mosaic tiles out of a broken pottery mug. No big deal. Go get another one from a thrift shop or something, or tell people you want coffee mugs for Christmas. So it's something that you can heal that aspect of yourself and recognize it and ponder it and process it and then move out of it. Because if you can find, well, okay, so another way that you can work on anger is to feel compassion for something or someone. That's why a lot of jails have instituted programs where inmates, especially really troubled inmates, have to take care of a pet. They have to take care of or train an animal, a dog, oftentimes, or sometimes cats is the only ones I've seen, but it could be other animals, I'm sure. So if they find compassion for a creature or even a plant, something that depends on you for its survival or care in some way, or even affection, that's a way to build compassion. And compassion can also heal that fear that leads to anger. So think about road rage, for example. you'll have one person who acts aggressively and maybe accidentally cuts you off because he's all in his own mind and he thinks he needs to get over right now. Well, you honk your horn because you're like, damn, that pissed me off. And almost created an accident. But what your reaction was, because now you're angry, your reaction was that startled me, that scared me. And then you go into, well, that's not right. I'm going to retaliate. They could have the same choice to go, well, he honked at me and that scared me and made me jump, and I didn't do anything wrong. So now they're angry. And now we've got a battle between two people because neither one is saying, oh, I was scared, I reacted, end of deal. And sometimes things happen that fast. Sometimes things happen so abruptly you don't have time to block your automatic reaction. So that's why it takes practice. It takes practice for compassion. It takes practice to be thoughtful and mindful about an emotion. It takes time to release those things in a focused way. When we think about, well, why is anger a normal emotion? Why are we even built to have anger in the first place? Well, anger is rocket fuel. Anger is going to make us break stagnation or things that are not working for us. So it could be, I get so ticked off at this job or this task, I'm going to walk away. This is not working for me. I'm unhappy with it. And it could be that you needed to do that in order to move into the job you really, really wanted. But you have to be conscious about why you're doing that, not just be unconscious and do things abruptly and then go, oh my God, what did I do? So if you take the time to think about, why am I angry? Where is that coming from? What can I do with it? And then use your anger as rocket fuel, you can get out of it. Say somebody you're working with at work is, say, a team building kind of thing, and you're doing a lot of the work, and they're doing very little effort, and they're starting to take the the um, the credit for the work done, even though you know darn well that they didn't put the work into it. So your anger about that can be used in a different creative way. You can be thinking about, how can I make sure that I get credited next time? How can the work that I've done show up as what I've done? Or how can I release that and go, well, it's a team effort thing that's going to benefit the whole company or the project. And so it doesn't really matter as long as the project gets done and I got to at least express what I'm good at. That it totally depends on where you want to go with that perspective. You could have anger that is, you're tired of the way you're living situation. Well, anger can be, all of a sudden you decide, I'm clearing everything out and I'm dropping it off at the thrift shop. I am tired of all these things. I'm tired of nothing being found or organized or piled up, however you want to look at it, and say, okay, it's time to clean. It's time. We get that a lot in spring fever, or even the holidays or something. If we want to bring something new in, we have to clear out the old. We have to make space for it. If everything is all full, you don't have room for new. So if you want something to change in your life, something new in your life, use anger as a means of that rocket fuel that gets you going, because anger is passionate. It's very, very actionable. And use that to your advantage when you need the energy, the motivation to get something done. Sometimes we can't do it with conscious, slow, focused intention or thoughts. Sometimes we have to wait till we hit a limit, hit a wall. Then we're like, okay, now I can be actionable. Now I can really like explode and do something about that. Use it as rocket fuel to motivate you, to move you, to change things. And it could be a job, a lifestyle, location, style, color, however you want to do it. You can make a difference in your life using anger in a very positive way. So remember, we're supposed to experience anger. We're supposed to have it. What we do with it is we create what we really want by utilizing anger as our energy. It helps us define boundaries. So, for example, we take something. Uh, we're going to allow people to push us so far until we don't, and then the anger responds. But what that tells you, what that informs you, is either you're not clear on your boundaries, what you are not willing to accept, or you've been allowing people to cross what you believe is a boundary, but maybe it's too close to home. Maybe that boundary needs to be way farther out so that you can process that. Or the person that's crossing your boundaries or pushing you to the wall is being disrespectful and hasn't listened to your boundary at all. So it's a way of reassessing yourself and defining what you want, what you don't want, your ability to express what is acceptable, what is respectable to you, only to you. You cannot control anyone else, only yourself. As you create more of what you do want in your life or about yourself, then you are building and creating self love. If love really does heal everything, but it's not love of other, it's love of self. And when you are content with who you are, when you are happy with who you are, when you recognize things and go, all right, I'm feeling angry today. It's coming from this old childhood wound. It's coming from, oh, yeah, I remember when my mom and dad fought like cats and dogs and how they experienced it and how uncomfortable it made me or scared me. When you can look at things with very neutral approach, you're hitting a place of self-love, and when that cup is full, it can overflow, and that's when you can love that's when you can love others. That's when your breath coming in of love sends out as gratitude, and then it feeds someone else with love. They take that gratitude in and they breathe in and feel that love, and then they can pass that on to someone else. That's how we create a network of balanced, healthy, emotionally balanced people, world. And we got to you can't fix anyone else. You have to do it yourself. Now there are some things that can really upset you, certainly like politics and injustices and things that are happening to the planet, to the people, to the animals. Let that anger impassion you to take action, whether it's being an activist, whether it's fostering children, pets, whether it's going to a place to save a tree, whatever it is, let it help you take action, not against someone, but about what you believe in. Riots are anger and they're against people, places, things. It's very thoughtless. It's very thoughtless. It doesn't think about the damage they're doing to others or for others with their anger. It's very selfish in that respect. And it's almost viral. It's catching in a way. But if you can control yourself, you don't get caught up in that kind of energy. You can still have the energy. You can still be angry about something and you can still protest, but you can do it in a more thoughtful, effective manner with your actions based on what you believe, where your boundaries are, what's important to you. And if it doesn't work, then you can use that anger in another creative way. Remember, use your anger for creativity. Use your anger to create a change in something that's stagnated, dangerous, something that you need a change in simply out of boredom. You're not growing. And so, whether it's a small place in your home, in your world, in your family dynamics, you don't have to yell at someone to show your anger. You can just say the truth about something instead of being accommodating, instead of not really saying what you mean, instead of how do we put it? When we're talking to people and we're being agreeable, or you can call it codependent, or when you're letting go of what's important to you for the sake of someone else's importance. Your anger can show up as simply stating a fact, and then that's it. That's your truth. That's it. You don't have to explain yourself further unless you want to. But anytime you make a change like that, you have to be willing to accept the consequences, and that's being a grown up. That's taking responsibility. That means you have a response ability. It makes you adaptable, flexible, but it also means that if I say a certain thing and it has a consequence, I accept that consequence. That's why anger has to be thoughtful. That's why it has to be creative. That's why it has to be related to what we truly want and our boundaries and what we want to create around us, about us, through us. And that's when anger is very appropriate. And then you can release it because you don't need it anymore. Once you've used the rocket fuel to get up in space, you don't need the rocket fuel right now. That's why they eject the fuel part of it. Um, yeah, I think that's about all I want to say for now about that. I want to talk about other motions in future videos. This was really just kind of an experiment to test to see how the heck to do this. Um, And if you're interested in other or similar topics, certainly make a comment down below. But really, I'm just trying to educate people not to be afraid of feeling. Feel all the emotions, even what we consider the negative ones, can be healed. And when you think of like fear, pain, grief, sadness, they're heavy, they're dense, the only way to get out of them is to be angry. The rocket fuel will push you up and out. It will take you out of the really heavy stuff, because if you try and do it on your own with just logic, doesn't work so well sometimes. But if you do it with anger, if you're like, I've had enough of this, I'm not going to feel this way anymore, I'm gonna go shopping today, which God forbid that we do anyway as a culture, but something to get yourself out of your house is really what I was implying. So I'm going to start a garden. We'll find out if anything grows. I don't know if I'm a gardener. I've never tried it before. Something like that. Try something you haven't done before, or watch a YouTube video or Pinterest or what have you, or try something you've never done before and try and express that emotion that you're experiencing through that creative attempt and see how it comes out. You might be the only one that ever sees it, doesn't matter. The only one reads it, hears it, make a song, however you want to do it. All the arts, all the senses are ways that we express our emotions. So every time you read something that touches you, what feeling does it evoke? Every time you see something, a movie, hear a song, read a poem, see a piece of art, or watch a cat frolicking, chasing birds, what you're experiencing is your emotion in a creative way. So that's all you're looking for. That's all you're looking for, is some way to heal that. If you want to do it through meditation or prayer, think of the color green. Green is very healing, very creative. It is the balance to anger. Anger is associated with the organ, the liver. That's why we get red, we get hot, or we could be green with envy, jealousy. Those emotions would be associated with the liver. And so when we think about the anger, we think about being bilious, a very old term, but it's basically not just a digestive term as far as biliousness, which is, gallbladder and burping and can't handle rich foods kind of thing, or your stomach feeling nauseous. But it's also related to anger and rising up of energy. And that's why your face will get flushed or hot. And when you feel those sensations coming on you, if they occur with you, everybody's different. then you can say, oh, I recognize this emotion. I recognize this sensation. How can I change it? How can I release it? Once you recognize it, then you can step back from it, process it, analyze it, determine where it came from, why it's there, how often it goes there, what you want to do with it. And then you can pick whatever touches you that feels appropriate as a creative way to balance it. Okay, so that's the end of today's stream. Hopefully, I'll talk to you more about other emotions like grief and sadness and worry and joy. Can't let joy be. I don't think we'll let joy be the last one because I think that would be too much. So, anyway, take good care, everyone. Bye bye.